Good morning. Okay, I think are we all set, Peggy?
Mhm.
Good. Well, good morning and welcome to the Darke County Chamber of Commerce Legislative Subcommittee. So we're happy to have you guys all here. Thanks for joining us early. I know there's kind of always an influx in and out of these types of calls. This morning, we are so fortunate and thrilled and joined by our Attorney General Dave Yost. I want to especially thank Kyle Lentz, who's on the call here. He helped facilitate this, so thank you, Kyle. He's been on our calls before, and he's been at a lot of our events in Darke County. Very familiar face, but we appreciate it. So thanks a lot, Kyle, for helping to set this up. I do think I'm supposed to put in a plug really quick about our December 2nd luncheon. So before I forget, and before I turn it over to you, Attorney General, and you're invited, so this is an invite to you as well. Our annual Darke County State of the State is going to be Friday, December 2nd. We pulled the plug, we set a date. We are waiting to hear back from a couple of invitations that we've extended to guests for keynotes. So we'll keep you updated. We'll keep you in suspense then. But we do want to ask you to mark your calendars. It's always a good, well-attended event for Darke County. And as mentioned, this morning, we are joined by Attorney General Yost. I believe he is no stranger to any of us here in Darke County. He has a long history of public service, which we appreciate so much. He started his career. I didn't realize that you had a journalism background from Ohio State and actually worked as a
in this environment. It's not something I brag about.
Yeah, right. You're not fake news, right? That was before that. But Attorney General Yost served as the Delaware County Auditor, the Delaware County Prosecutor before extending both of those offices to statewide. So he served as the Ohio Auditor and is obviously the Ohio Attorney General. He lives with his wife in Delaware. I've had the privilege of working with Attorney General Yost on several different issues, and I don't know if you're more talented in law or in music, but you are equally as talented. You're a very well-rounded individual. So we are just so happy and thankful for you to be with us today. I know you have a number of things that you wanted to talk to us about. And so I'll turn it over to you.
Katie, thanks for having me. The first, really the main thing I want to talk about is issue one. The issue one on the ballot is something that most people don't really have much knowledge about. It's kind of flown under the radar. So let me explain it to you, because this is really a word of mouth campaign that we're trying to find and communicate with the opinion leaders in communities all across Ohio to let people know what's going on here. And we certainly have the opinion leaders in Darke County and Western Ohio on this call today. I'm going to introduce the topic by telling you a story that I heard this week that illustrates what's going on with this particular area of the law. A friend of mine, Steve, is a homicide detective in Cleveland. He told me the story about J. Ron Gibson. Now, Mr. Gibson he was a member of a criminal gang called the Heartless Felons, which kind of gives you a good thumbnail sketch of his background. He attempted to kill 4 people with a gun. He was a felon. He wasn't supposed to even have a gun. So he was indicted on 4 counts of attempted aggravated murder, along with possession of weapons under disability and various gun specifications on the indictment. He got out on bail and went over to his ex-girlfriend's house, went in, she's got 4 kids. He dragged her out by the hair. He was offended because she had ended the affair and gone back with the father of her children. dragged her out and onto the porch and began beating her in front of the children. The little 5-year-old boy ran out and jumped on his back, trying to stop him from hurting his mother. That ended predictably. The 12-year-old was a little more experienced, thoughtful. He ran to the kitchen to retrieve a knife to protect his mom. In the meantime, the father of these 4 children, who was upstairs sleeping, heard the ruckus and came downstairs and confronted Mr. Gibson, who took out a gun, another one that he wasn't allowed to have, and shot the father of the children in front of the 4 kids. Now, as I tell that story, I'm pretty sure I know what each one of you is thinking. Why was this guy even on the street? And the answer to that is because of a Supreme Court decision that came out in January of this year called DuBose versus McGuffey. In that case, which was a case about excessive bail, the Supreme Court went farther than that, the Ohio Supreme Court, and said that the Ohio Constitution prohibits judges from considering public safety when they're setting a criminal defendant's bail. Now, folks, early in my career, I was a defense lawyer. I spent 8 years as an elected prosecutor. I have served as special prosecutor in courts all over the state. And I can tell you that in my 30 years of practicing law, I have never been in a criminal case where the judge didn't expect to consider public safety when they were setting the amount of bail. Not once. The judge always wants to know about the defendant's prior record. What are the facts underlying the charge here? What kind of evidence do you have? What does the victim have to say? And the reason the judge asks all those questions is because they're considering public safety as one element in setting that bail. The state issue 1 question that will be on the November 8th ballot is very simple. I fought to get that on the ballot and get the legislative approval to place it on the ballot. And helped write it. I apologize. I know I'm a lawyer, but it's actually very short and very simple, not complicated at all, like you would expect out of a lawyer. All that issue 1 does is says that judges shall consider, along with all the other things that a judge is supposed to consider, public safety when they're setting the amount of bail in a criminal case. We think it's common sense, but people are justifiably worried about and cautious about amending the Constitution of our state. But this is the only way that we can do this. The legislature can't pass a law because the Supreme Court's decision is based in the Constitution. And it will require an amendment to the Constitution to make this explicit. Issue 1's basically a reset button to return the law to the position it was in 2021 and for 200 years prior to that. And I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today and give you a quick explanation of why the darn thing's on your ballot and what it's going to do.
No, I appreciate that. We were fortunate to hear from Supreme Court Justice Pat DeWine, who also is very passionate about this issue. I think he obviously was in the dissenting opinion in that case. So Governor DeWine talks a lot about, he was at our hog roast, he was in Darke County, and he specifically talked about why issue 1 was so important to the business community. When his administration is looking to bring in business, when they're trying to, craft deals for investments for our state. Do you want to talk a little bit about the importance of, the public safety environment and our criminal justice system in the state for our business folks here on the line?
Sure. I mean, there's multiple issues that are affected there, and all of you, I am sure, can think of them on your own. The most important, of course, is when a business is trying to locate somewhere, they want a stable environment, not just in public safety, but in litigation, which is one of the reasons that I'm regularly in court to force the federal government to stay within its own lane. But beyond that, there's some very practical considerations. Number one is that violent criminals victimize businesses as much as they victimize individuals. Let's face it, the place where money is most frequently in businesses. A more important but overlooked impact is on the workforce. Everybody's struggling with workforce issues these days. Victims of crime are your workers. They're your customers. To the extent that they are fearful or injured or incapacitated in some way because criminal acts, they are not either producing wealth in your business or patronizing your business. The other dirty little secret is most crime is committed by the same people. It's a small group of people. I think I heard that the sheriff's on the line. He can tell you that over and over again, it is a relatively small group of people that's responsible for committing most of the crime. Yeah, we've got individuals who make their first mistake or their second mistake, and those aren't the folks we're talking about. Those people get out on a recog bond right now. They're already back on the streets. They're scared to death. They've never gone to court before. And they're going to be on the straight and narrow. We don't have to worry about them. It's the career criminal that issue one deals with. And the statistics show that particularly a violent career criminal who is out on bond is going to keep committing crimes. I remember talking to someone when I was a defendant who had been convicted, and it was appropriate conversation. He was on supervision, and he said, "I don't know. I rob people. I steal stuff. It's all I know how to do." That's where most of our crime problem is coming from, folks, is people who do it over and over again, not people who stub their toe or make a bad decision one night with a belly full of beer.
Yep, thanks for that. And I know you said that this was a pretty straightforward amendment, and that's issue one. And I think it is, it's easy to kind of understand on the ballot language, and we appreciate that. I don't know if you can just touch on issue two, which is even simpler. And also my issue, and a lot of questions that I know I've fielded myself, is in this conversation about issue two, why is this even needed, when we have, the Constitution in place? So if you can just touch on issue two as well, I think that'd be great.
Thanks, Katie. Issue two is pretty simple. It says that local governments are not allowed to, under home rule, give non-citizens a right to vote in their local elections. Now, they're already prohibited from voting in state and federal elections. But there's a loophole. We have, after 1912, we have what's called home rule in Ohio, which means if the state hasn't regulated in an area, a city or a a few townships that are really big or a charter county has the right to go in and make their own laws, as long as they don't conflict with the state laws. So Yellow Springs, I believe, was the town gave non-citizens the right to vote in Yellow Springs elections. And that was what sparked the controversy. What issue 2 does is it says local governments aren't allowed to give non-citizens the right to vote. Non-citizens don't get to vote in state elections, and they don't get to vote in local elections either. So is it needed? No, we do not have an avalanche of cities that are rushing in to give non-citizens the right to vote. But I don't think that we have to wait until we have an epidemic of bank robberies to prohibit bank robberies. And so I'm supporting issue 2. There's a path to citizenship if you're here legally. You can become a United States citizen. I've met the people that go through that process. They have to study and go through school and take a test, and they get sworn in. And when they're sworn in, they are so proud of the fact that they've become a United States citizen, an American, and all that entails, all that means. I think that it cheapens our citizenship when we give the right to vote to people who can't be bothered to become Americans. And I would point out that this is far and away the majoritarian position, almost the unanimous position. You have to search really hard to find any country that lets people, foreigners, vote in their elections.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, thank you. Between issues 1 and 2, those are the only 2 issues statewide that will be on our ballot in November. So thank you for touching on both of them. As mentioned, Sheriff Whitaker is on the call. So is Darke County Prosecutor Kelly Ormsby. Both have spoken about the importance of issue 1. So we appreciate all of you guys kind of taking that united effort in educating so many different groups around our county on these issues and how they touch on, every industry, business and schools and communities, which, I think is so critical, obviously, to the growth of to our county. Kind of going on a little bit, segueing into other parts of your career. We've all watched kind of the federal overreach over the last couple of years. Congressman Davidson has talked about it on our calls, the rules and the authorities and the kind of the parameters of each tier of government. And we're seeing the federal government really kind of encroach on those. And I know you've pushed back in numerous ways on the Biden administration, had joined in many different lawsuits on a couple of different issues. I didn't know if you wanted to take the opportunity to talk about any of those lawsuits that you've joined in and kind of given our audience an update on those.
Thank you. I would love to. I'm not going to talk about specific lawsuits.
Sure.
Some of which are relatively controversial, but I would like to talk in a non-legal way, talk about the impact, the reason this is important to business. And to think about this, I'd like you to join me in thinking for a moment about the Keystone Pipeline. Now, forget about whether you like pipelines or don't like pipelines. The Obama administration considered that project for a long time, wouldn't grant the permits. Then we had an election, and the next president, Trump, did like pipelines and permitted the Keystone XL. Now think for a minute with me, what happens at that moment? The federal government has spoken, it's blessed the project and said, go ahead and do it. So investment decisions get made. Investors decide to risk their hard-earned capital on financing the project. Loans get made, not just with the people building it, but the subcontractors looking for a line of credit. the suppliers for pipe and parts and cement and gravel. There's all kinds of lending decisions that are made based on the income stream expected from those contracts. The pipe manufacturer themselves agree to make the pipe, manufacture the pipe. They have opportunity costs, is what the economists call it. Basically, it means their ability to make pipes is now committed to Keystone XL, and that means they can't build the pipe for something else, a different project. So they've lost that opportunity to make money. Or let's think about it at a very basic level. Some guy in Southern Ohio, work is a little bit short. The jobs that are there don't pay very well, and he hears about the pipeline. And he says, well, shoot, I've got the skills to build that kind of a thing. I'm going west. Come on, honey. And they pick up and move their family out west for a job. They've spent money. They've lost opportunities back home and are taking a risk. And now we have another election. And now the government decides that it doesn't want to build this after all. What happens to all those people that relied on the government's decision? And what are the limits on the ability of the government to just jump back and forth and up and down and change its mind all the time based on the most recent political wins? The rule of law is designed to prevent that kind of chaos, that instability in our economy. And what we have seen over the last couple of years, and I'm going to be candid, this is not just a Democrat problem. They're just a lot better at it than Republicans are, is that we've got these executive decisions being made without authority or in contravention of the Constitution, usurping Congress's authority. The rule of law is designed to create a stable environment, a predictable environment where we can all assess the risks of the marketplace and make decisions, some of which will be good and some of which will be bad, but they're based on our decisions and our assessments, not the instability of the government. That's why you see the lawsuits you see from the state of Ohio. About half of the lawsuits against Joe Biden, we don't join. Either Ohio doesn't have an interest or they're just too political and about policy, not about the law. But the most important thing, in my view, that law can do is to create that predictable and stable environment. And that's why I'm out there in the courts. I'm trying to make Ohio and America a safer, more stable place to do business.
And we appreciate that so much for doing that and for kind of weighing those decisions because, you know, as mentioned, there are a lot of lawsuits, you know, that are flung around. We see a lot of other states joining in, but there are a lot of political, very political, very, you know, ideological based. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I do feel the lawsuits that Ohio has joined in are pointed and articulate and for good, sound Ohio based reasoning. So we appreciate that. We know that you're watching out for our business community and our public safety community, and we appreciate that. And we'll continue to watch how those progress. I did want to give our sheriff or our prosecutor, and we do have both Commissioner Stiegel and Commissioner Holmes on the line as well. I know that they've all, again, talked about the importance of this election, this midterm, in regards to our statewide issues. Also, just, you know, other local races as well. I don't know if any of you guys want to join in on this conversation and kind of reiterate the local importance of these issues that Attorney General spoke about?
Well, I would say certainly on issue one, I think that should be important to everybody. We do have violent criminals, and some of them, I mean, a lot of them are the career criminals, as was said. They're people that, I know I've talked with law enforcement officers over the years, and they've often said, if we could just put these 10 people away, we would cut crime by 50% in our county or whatever. So that's important, but it's not just the career criminals. There are some people that commit murder or aggravated murder that maybe haven't been at it for a career, but they're still very dangerous people. And we need to be able to consider public safety and the safety of potential witnesses when bail decisions are made, I think. So I think that's really important that issue 1 get passed so that judges can do what a lot of judges have done forever, and that is consider safety in the decision-making process. As far as issue 2, I think that's important also. I remember, of course, everybody doesn't know, my mother was from England. I remember helping her study for her citizenship exam when I was a teenager and quizzing her on the branches of government and all that sort of thing. And she was excited to become a citizen and to she needed that in part because she was wanting to take a different job, which they required her to be a U.S. citizen to do that. So I remember that, and that was important to us and our family. So I also don't know why any community would want to let non-citizens vote, even a city. I don't understand that, allowing them to make decisions about where the money is going to be spent in that community. That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. But so hopefully both issues 1 and 2 are going to pass. I think they're both important.
Thank you, Kelly. I had no idea that your mother was from England. That's why you're so cultured, right?
Okay.
Went to Michigan. There was missteps in there. But Sheriff Whitaker, do you want to chime in at all? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I know you gave a rousing speech on this, and I know that this is something you are equally passionate.
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody in Darke County as well for the state of Ohio to understand how important issue 1 is, and that I support issue 1 and urge the citizens of Darke County to get out and vote number 1 and number 2. I really would like you to vote yes and support issue 1. Bail is important in Darke County, and it's important that we put our now becoming our upcoming judge, Travis Fleeman, who's on the ballot there unopposed, give him the opportunity, as well as our other judges, to consider public safety when deciding what the bond should be, among other elements and things that need to be considered constitutionally. And I don't believe that those considerations, and I don't believe public safety interferes with the presumption of innocence at all. It's kind of a balance between public safety and the concerns immediately of the information available, but still permits the folks to go through due process. I don't believe it interferes with that at all. So, and I want to thank Attorney General Dave Yost for all of his hard work and his support of law enforcement, and in a number of ways, and also his support on both these issues.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other questions or listeners? I don't know if you want to also chime in, or if you have any specific questions to these issues in regards to Darke County. I think they're still both on. Did we lose them?
I'm still here, Katie. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, Larry. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm breaking any rules as I drive down 49, but no, I don't have anything to add to this, but other than exercise your right and you don't miss your opportunity. That's what makes our nation and our community strong. So wherever you stand, please go out and vote.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yes, and Sheriff, I did want to, you reminded me, and I did want to make a special introduction. Travis Fleeman is on the call today. I think all of us know that he is, he will be on the November ballot for the Court of Common Pleas here in Darke County. This is his first election. He's uncontested. So if anyone has voted already, then we can already celebrate that. But we look forward to working with Judge Fleeman in the future. And I think a lot of these judicial policies and legal philosophies are so important. And I know he shares many of these. I don't know, Travis, if you want to say anything. I didn't even give you a heads up there. So this is all kind of a surprise. And we can hear from him later. So with that, does anyone else have any other questions on issues or anything else going on around the county or in our legal community? I know we have several other attorneys as well on the call today, so we can open up for more questions.
Hey, Katie, it was nice to hear Attorney General Yost talk about, him seeing it too all over the state of Ohio. It's always the same thing. I know 12 years I've worked with Sheriff Whitaker and Sheriff Spencer. They always talk about it as a state. Nice to know that it's not just in our local community, everywhere. So I think this is going to be an important issue for everybody across the state.
Commissioner Siegel, we're having trouble hearing you. Can you talk louder, or maybe, I don't know where you are.
Really, you had to ask me if I could talk louder?
I know, that's a first.
No, I just want to thank the Attorney General that other communities are having the same problem we are with repeat offenders. Sheriff Whitaker a long time, and he's constantly bringing that up. This is a very important thing for all communities in Ohio. Please support this.
Commissioner, there is no chance that you have your finger over the bottom of your phone or anything. I've done that before, where I've been on the phone and have my finger over the microphone, because we can't hear. I can't hear him at all. So.
Nope, I didn't have my finger anywhere. So.
There you are. Yeah, we can hear you a little bit better there. I think you were just.
I just wanted to thank, like I said, for the third time. I want to thank Attorney General Yost for pointing out the fact that small communities all over Ohio are having the same problem with repeat offenders. I've worked with Sheriff Whitaker now for 12 years, and he has constantly brought that up. So this makes it a statewide problem, and it's not the entire little community. So it is very, very important we vote for issue one. I just want to thank him for bringing that up and making that known to everybody, not just our little community, everywhere.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. I think he was just thanking everyone for that kind of united stance. Any other?
Yeah,
Katie,
I would add that.
Go ahead, Larry.
No, I was going to say she got it right. Mike was, I think, trying to express how important it is to the county that we've got examples where Travis, as he's coming to office, and future judges could have this tool in their toolbox as they need it. But the other thing I would observe and share with the group is the mute Mike in the past. So beyond that, Travis said, go ahead.
No, thank you, Katie. Can you hear me okay now? I had to unmute my mic.
Yes, you're good.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
So, well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you again for Attorney General Yost to be part of this conversation. I'm prohibited from judicial canons from providing any specific support, but I certainly appreciate giving the court some plenty of discretion in its decisions in the future. And so I appreciate everybody's support in the various matters, and certainly appreciate everybody's support at the ballot box as well. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this morning's conversation.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being willing to serve in this position. I think we all understand the importance of good elected officials from the top down, governor, attorney general, all the way through our commissioners, and most especially, our judicial candidates. So thank you, Travis, for being willing to step into that position for Darke County. And I think we're all looking forward to your reign. Any other questions from the group for the Attorney General before we let him go? We know that you're busy. We know that you have a lot on your plate. But again, we just appreciate so much that you've taken the time to educate us a little bit more on the state issues, to kind of reiterate that importance of how these policies impact us here in Darke County. But I wanted to give everyone else a chance. Any other questions or any closing comments from you, Attorney General?
I don't have anything else to say. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has any. And since we're here, I don't think you have to limit it to issue 1 and issue 2. If that's all right, Katie, would you open up the floor?
Sure.
I have a question. I'm just wondering to what extent, I mean, obviously fentanyl has become a tremendous problem, certainly here in Darke County. I'm kind of curious, in Ohio, what have you heard? What's the extent of the rainbow colored fentanyl that's been being distributed throughout the country?
Thank you. Are you seeing it there in Darke County? Because we're seeing it.
I haven't seen it yet. I've heard of it in a neighboring county. I have not seen it yet here. Obviously, we've seen a lot of fentanyl, but not the rainbow colored fentanyl, especially when we're getting close to Halloween.
Yeah, the rainbow stuff is mostly in the big cities, but it's coming. And, it's worrisome. The other thing, I'm sure you're seeing this in Greenville as well. They're putting fentanyl in everything now. So kids that are going out there and thinking that they're just going to score a little bit of marijuana, little weed is what they call it. We're increasingly seeing the marijuana samples that we're testing also have fentanyl present in them, and we're seeing some overdoses from people smoking marijuana that has been laced with fentanyl. Have you had a case like that yet?
Well, we have seen cases where we do have people like they're on trouble, they're on probation, and they're swearing up and down they just smoked a joint or two, but they're testing positive for fentanyl or meth or other things. So we know they're getting mixed in with everything.
Of course, defendants have been known to lie too.
That's true. That happens once in a while.
Well, I don't know if there's any other questions. Again, we just appreciate so much your time. We appreciate, your leadership in the state for our public safety and our legal system. And we will let you know if we field any other questions. I know Peggy mentioned that we are recording this and we are sending it out to all of our members. So Kyle, I know you're a good facilitator of all that. We'll be in touch with any other specific questions. But again, thank you for your time. Feel free to drop off. I know we're going to turn it over more local reports, but we just wanted to thank you again for this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thanks guys for joining. I wanted to give Ben Thaler a chance to give a federal update. I know he had a few things he wanted to mention this morning. Thank you, Kelly. I know you probably have to jump off quickly too for grand jury.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for having to go, but yeah, grand jury starts in a few minutes. So thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. I laugh because, as you guys know, I served on grand jury last time, and it was always a conflict with this call. And but it really was a great experience. I told Kelly that. I told Judge Hine that. It was eye-opening, and it was something that I think all Darke Countyans should have the opportunity to do to understand and appreciate all that you guys do for us here in the county.
Hey, thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Ben, did you want to give a quick update from Congressman Davidson's office?
Yeah, very happy to, Katie. And I want to echo the appreciation for Attorney General Yost for his leadership to protect the rights of Ohioans. So many times over the last 2 years, we saw these new mandates coming out. Excuse me. And the only recourse a lot of times was state attorneys general pushing back. And every time Attorney General Yost and his team were already on these issues, as soon as they were coming out, They were already working with other states to push back against these things. So we should all feel very fortunate that we had its leadership over the last 2 years. One thing that I definitely wanted to mention this morning is that 2 weeks ago, the Department of Labor issued their new definition of worker status from independent contractor. And if you remember back in 2021, January of 2021, the Department of Labor issued a new definition that would take 2 major factors into consideration: the nature and the degree of the worker's control over their own work, and the worker's opportunity for profit or loss based on their own personal initiative. Well, the Biden administration threw that out, and they issued a new definition that includes 3 additional provisions, actually 4. The investments that people make versus what the investments that their workers, that their employers make in their equipment or materials, the degree of the performance of the working relationship, the extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the employer's business model, and the degree or skill and initiative exhibited by the worker. So it's a much broader definition, and the net effect of this will be it will be very, very difficult to hire an independent contractor to do anything if this ends up going through. So the reason I bring this up, it is currently a proposed rule, and anyone on this call could make a public comment on the Department of Labor's website. If you'd like, I can follow up with that link, so that if you are someone who hires a lot of independent contractors, you really need to take a look at this proposed rule with your HR team and determine if this would affect you. And if so, consider making a public comment. There can't be litigation against this rule until it's no longer proposed and once it's become final. And historically, the federal courts have struck down these expanded definitions of independent contractors. So I'd be happy to follow up with anyone who has questions about this, but it really is important, especially if you hire independent contractors to do anything for your business. Yeah, Bob.
Oh, you're muted, Bob.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for the input there. As a licensed real estate broker, we are all independent contractors. So if you would give us that link, and we will pass that on. Very important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. The other thing I did want to mention, Congress has not been in session for several weeks. They won't reconvene until after the election. But one of the big priorities that we have will be preventing the sunsetting of some of the provisions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If you remember, a lot of those provisions, we couldn't make them permanent. So they were 5-year provisions. Well, believe it or not, we're at 5 years. The bill was passed into law 5 years ago this December. And one of the provisions that will be sunsetting is the expensing of research and experimental expenditures, which in Darke County affects some of our major employers in a really big way. If they're not able to expense that R&D investment, it will be a huge, huge setback for them. So there are several bills that Congressman Davidson has co-sponsored that would address this specifically, but what we think will happen is the provision will just be added to one of the government funding bills. But it's not a guarantee. So this is something that we're really working to make sure does get included in some must-pass legislation before the end of the year, because it will have a huge impact on R&D that's happening in Darke County. Final thing real quick. For years now, we've had a lot of folks concerned about China purchasing farmland. And over the last few months, there have been some new alarming developments on that front. So Congressman Davidson is part of a bipartisan coalition that is asking the Department of Defense, the Treasury, and USDA to work together to determine who has, believe it or not, there's not even established jurisdiction for reviewing what China is doing with purchasing this farmland, and to work together to identify what are the risks, how are they currently coordinating their efforts to look into these purchases, and ultimately, you know, what can we do about it? Because this is a huge vulnerability. Sometimes you have farmland that's being purchased immediately adjacent to military bases. And beyond that, if these Chinese interests decide not to, you know, plant crops or decide not to do things with that farmland, that obviously has a huge impact on global food supply. So it's something that we're looking into. And then I'll end with this. Darke County should be very proud. Last week we had our Service Academy nomination interviews. And there were several students from Darke County who interviewed for nominations to our military academies, and all of them performed extremely well. They were setting the standards of excellence for the rest of the pack. And I think folks in Darke County should be proud that the young men and women that are wanting to go and serve our country will make exemplary leaders among America's sons and daughters who are going into harm's way. So thank you all for raising great kids. And it's always an honor for us to get to meet them and interview them for these service academies.
Thanks, Ben. That's great news. That's all great news. We appreciate Congressman Davidson. And I think I'm always reminded, because this is the first election after redistricting, and I know it's mayhem with other places. People are voting and they're realizing that they're voting for a different congressman. They didn't realize that their district has got switched. I know that's happening a lot in Miami County and Greene and Clark County. But we are so fortunate here in Darke County that we remain in Congressman Davidson's district squarely, all of the entire county. And we just appreciate all the work that you do with us, Ben. And happy belated birthday. So
thank you.
Yeah. And thanks to Congressman Davidson for his work in DC. Any other updates? I thought I saw maybe Sam Bain on, but then I think maybe he dropped off. But I wanted to give the commissioners or the sheriff any other opportunity to provide an update. Otherwise, I think we're okay.
This is Larry Holmes. Maybe real quickly, and I left my notes on my desk when I left, but I thought I was a little concerned that things were slowing down, and we saw sales tax decrease year over year for 3 months in a row. That turned positive year over year. So looks like we're back on track there, and are positive overall. So it's showing that the local economy is showing some resilience there. Economic development has been at the forefront for us. It's always there, but getting a little more attention right now. Mike Bowers has got some things going on November 2nd. We're going to have a child care conversation. Going to be there. Gotten mixed responses from folks if that's a barrier to folks re-entering the workforce. Workforce participation rates right around 63%, which actually is a little higher than I thought it was. But when you compare that to Mercer County, 69%, you can see that there's opportunity, and if we can facilitate folks getting back in the workforce, that gives some relief to our local employers, and that's occurring on November 2nd. And we got some other things going on there. We learned that we couldn't compete for certain grants without being part of having a countywide land use plan. In that, because we need to have every opportunity to compete that we can available. And so I think unless, I don't know if Mike, that's you're being garbled up as broadband width. I think you got a problem there, but I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, Mike, if you're still there.
No, not really, Larry. I think you covered it all. It's going to be a busy year next year for you guys. So, good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
And
I didn't catch what he said, but he said good luck, and I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. He very authentic smile. He ended with good luck to you guys next year, because he won't be there anymore. We'll have a new commissioner, and we will miss you, Commissioner Stegall. Well, again, thank you guys for joining. Just one more plug for our December 2nd luncheon. It's our legislative state of the state. I think I've told you guys before, we've extended the invitation to Lieutenant Governor Husted, so fingers crossed. He's our keynote, but we're just waiting to hear back confirmation. But we will have a great lineup. Darke County is just fortunate to have lots of options with who we're represented by. So we'll keep you updated on that, but mark your calendars and everyone have a great day. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.